सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
बुद्धि प्रदायक गणनाथा, बुद्धि प्रदायक गणनाथा, सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
विघ्नहरण प्रभु विघ्नेश्वर तुम,
विघ्नहरण प्रभु विघ्नेश्वर तुम,
विघ्नहरण प्रभु विघ्नेश्वर तुम,
विघ्नहरण प्रभु विघ्नेश्वर तुम,
गौरी नंदन हे जगवंदन,
गौरी नंदन हे जगवंदन,
गौरी नंदन हे जगवंदन, नमोस्तुते नमोस्तुते, नमोस्तुते नमोस्तुते, सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
बुद्धि प्रदायक गणनाथा, सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता,
विघ्नहरण प्रभु विघ्नेश्वर तुम,
विघ्नहरण प्रभु विघ्नेश्वर तुम,
गौरी नंदन हे जगवंदन,
हे जगवंदन,
नमोस्तुते नमोस्तुते,
नमोस्तुते,
नमोस्तुते नमोस्तुते, सिद्धि विनायक मंगलदाता, साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता,
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 साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता
साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता
ओ साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता
साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता
रूप मनोहर कमलाकांता
मनोहर कमलाकांता
रूप मनोहर कमलाकांता
मनोहर कमलाकांता
युग अवतार साई बाबा दया करो परति बाबा
युगावतार साई बाबा दया करो पति बाबा
युग अवतार साई बाबा दया करो परति बाबा
युगावतार साई बाबा दया करो पति बाबा
शिरडी परती हृदय निवासी
परति हृदय निवासी
शिरडी परती हृदय निवासी
परति हृदय निवासी
प्रशांति सुंदर साई
शांति सुंदर साई
प्रशांति सुंदर साई
शांति सुंदर साई
साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता
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 ओ साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता
साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता
रूप मनोहर कमलाकांता
मनोहर कमलाकांता
युग अवतार साई बाबा दया करो परति बाबा
युगावतार साई बाबा दया करो पति बाबा
शिरडी परती हृदय निवासी
परति हृदय निवासी
प्रशांति सुंदर साई
शांति सुंदर साई
प्रशांति सुंदर साई
शांति सुंदर साई
साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता
Sairam, my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our dearest Bhagavan, Sri Satya Sai Baba. Sairam, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us on this auspicious day to listen to the glory of our dearest beloved Swami. Our distinguished guest speaker will speak for about 45 minutes, and we will have some time for question and answers at the end. Please enter your questions in the chat. Myself and Brother Bharani will compile them and share with our speaker at the end. We will try to answer as many questions as possible, time permitting. So without further ado, let me pass to our national president, Sister Aruna Suvendran. Thank you.
My humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Swami. Sai Ram to all. We extend again a warm welcome to you all, joining the meeting on an auspicious day of Aradhana Mahautsavam. Most importantly, Sri Naganand and Dr. Akshay joining us with a short notice. Sri Naganand is currently serving as a senior advocate and trustee of Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust. Sri Naganand was appointed as a member of Board of Management for Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust by Swami. Sri Naganand is here to talk on the glory of Sai. Thanks, Sri Naganand, for agreeing to have this meeting on an auspicious day of Aradhana Mahautsavam and graciously agreed to answer the questions. Today's event wasn't pre-planned. This event meeting is not possible without Swami's will and blessings. This reminds me, God loves when we say we have a plan. Everything happens according to his plan. This event is happening effortlessly, only by him. We thank Swami made this event possible to contemplate on him on an auspicious day. Before we move on to brothers Sri Naganand, I would like Dr. Akshay to say a few words on that. And now I pass on to Brother Akshay, who is our Zone 1 chair. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, everyone. I offer myself at the divine lotus feet of Bhagwan. Swami says, love my uncertainty. And even though we know that everything happens only for our good, many times we're not too happy with that uncertainty. So this is one of those few times where we are so happy with this uncertainty. Like Sister Aruna just mentioned, how Sri Naganand is able to come and share this time with us without any effort on our part. So we're so gracious to Swami to have this wonderful opportunity. And along with all of you, I'm eagerly looking forward to hearing about his experiences and his wisdom. So we turn it right back over to Sri Naganand. Jai Sai Ram, everyone. Thank you.
Om Sri Sai Ram. My humble pranams, the divine lotus feet of our Lord, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. My hearty greetings to all the devotees from all over Canada and maybe the neighboring America, some have joined on this very holy occasion when we are meeting together for this satsang. I'd like to commence with a prayer. Om Namah Pranavatraya Shuddha Jnane Kamuktaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamuktaye Agartha Vilasamputto Agartha Pratipaktaye Jagatah Pitaro Vande Aditi. Invoking Swami's blessings and guidance for today's satsang. It so happened that we made a short trip to Canada, and thanks to COVID, everything was extremely uncertain. We made our bookings, cancelled them once to London. We made another booking, cancelled it once again. And the third time, when all the bookings were made, I was joking with my wife and my daughter who's joined me on this trip, my son-in-law, that this seems to be the third time that we're going to cancel everything. But by Swami's grace, we didn't have to cancel anything. The COVID situation eased and travel was permitted. We left the shores of India after nearly 32 months or so. And the destination Canada was, because we had not been to Canada except for a very brief fleeting visit to Niagara once to British Columbia. We thought we should see the beautiful country here. In Swami's world, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is one family. There's no difference between one human being and another human being. There's no difference between people of different countries. The universal principle of love is what we should all cultivate. This is exactly what Swami used to perform. The Sister Aruna mentioned about a coincidence, because if we start talking about coincidences, they're called Sai incidences. These coincidences are really not coincidences. They are well planned, well designed, and meant to be in that fashion. I will start with, you may call it again Sai incidents. I go back 10 years ago. A few days before the Mahasamadhi, Swami was in hospital. The mood was very somber. I was there most of the time. And every day we would hear from Dr. Safaya and other doctors what the condition was. The medical condition was one. And occasionally, 2 or 3 occasions I had occasion to go to the ICU where Swami was kept and have his darshan. And my memory of that day is that whenever I went, even in that condition, he had that same beautiful smile on his face. There was not a single wrinkle on his face. There was no sign of discomfort, pain, anything. He was as ebullient as he could be any time. A few years earlier, the same thing happened. When in Vrindavan, Swami had a fall and there was a fracture of his hip bone. Again, I happened to be there. And then it was decided to move Swami for a small surgery to the hospital. I, along with a few others, were able to go up to Swami's room and physically lifted him and put him on a stretcher and brought him down. Even on that occasion, I found that there was a kind of disconnect between Swami and his body. Swami always said, I am not the body. So I think that he showed. And after the surgery also, when he was brought back, he just in the same composed state of mind. There was, no sign of anything. He helped Swami to take him up to his room. Of course, he recuperated, recovered it. But what I'm saying is that before Mahasamadhi, it was the same. Few years earlier, it was the same. So what message did we get? Because Swami always said, my life is my message. My life is my message means see how I live, see how I conduct myself. And you have to emulate me in that fashion. So body is there, it's an instrument. We used to use it. We need to use it for some good purpose. Coming back to the Mahasamadhi time, so a few days before that, I had planned to go to Gaya along with my cousin whose husband had passed away, and they wanted to do last rites there. And our plan was that I would go to Delhi, meet her. She was flying in from the US, from New York, and from there we would fly together to Patna. And all the arrangements were made in Gaya for the last rites of my cousin's husband. And incidentally, my mother's ceremony is on Ashtami, which is today, and my cousin's husband's ceremony was on Saptami, one day earlier. So we had planned a 2-day visit to Gaya. And on Saptami, we were to perform her husband's ceremony. And the next day, I was supposed to perform my mother's ceremony. It's just today, so I'm performing here. Thereafter, we were supposed to come back. Now, till 3 days before this Mahasamadhi, my trustee said, you cannot leave Puttaparthi. You cannot go. The condition is not so good. But I don't know what happened. One day earlier, they all called me and said, see, you planned everything, please go. I was a bit shocked. I said, in this condition, you want me to go now? I said, yes, go. And I had a bag packed and I didn't go home from Purke, drove straight to airport. My wife and I took a flight to Patna. And we went and visited the Pandit who was supposed to do all the rites. And he explained everything. He said, next day morning you can come. The next day morning, we came there at 7 o'clock. I got off the car and put my foot down on the ground and entered the Vishnupada temple. And I got a call from late Sri Giri to say that Swami has left his body. And therefore, I went straight to the Purohit and told him this is what has happened. He said, who? And I mentioned Swami's name. He said, I know. Swami had come here and this Purohit had performed the rituals for Swami's sister, the instance of Swami. I didn't know this. Anyway, when I mentioned this to him, he said, no, you need not wait for tomorrow. When you are in the Kshetra, you can do the ceremony on the same day. And we performed 2 ceremonies on the same day. And of course, return journey was a very eventful one. I'm not going to give you details of it. I reached back to Tirupati at 2:30 a.m. on the same day. Now, that while I was in Gaya, I was able to perform whatever rites one could perform for Swami also. Now, Swami always said that my devotees are the ones who are going to look after everything that I leave behind. So why did Swami give me this opportunity? Was it a coincidence that I happened to be there? And this is what I was able to perform. Is it a coincidence that I'm here today? That it is Mahasamadhi day? It is also coinciding with my mother's ceremony and I'm going to perform it later. And they are going to be here talking about Swami's Mahasamadhi day and the significance of it. Now, great beings, great personalities, divine personalities, we celebrate their birth. The birth of Jesus Christ is celebrated. It's a universal celebration today on the 25th of December every year. We celebrate the birth of great saints like Buddha, Mahavira, Shankara, you name it, Shankara, then Krishna, Rama, all of them. In our Sanatana Dharma, we celebrate it. Why? Because they came down. It's called avatarana. Avatarana is to come down from wherever the person is, wherever the divine being is. So when they come down, they come for what purpose? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata vyuttanam adharmasya tatatmanam sujami. This is what Bhagan Krishna said. Whenever there is adharma, I come down. So when this great divine being comes down, it is our duty to celebrate it. It is our duty to thank the divinity for having blessed this. Now, in the same way, when the divine being leaves the body, goes away from this world, that is also a very important occasion for us. For Shirdi Baba's Punya Tithi is on the Vijayadashmi day. We always remember it. It's performed there. Swami's Divya Mahasamadhi day is taking place today in Canada. And it has taken place 7 or 8 hours ago in Prashanti Nilayam and all over the world. So it is a day of remembrance. What do we have to remember? Why did Swami come? The question which you should ask. And Swami has himself explained it. And we all know he came to propound the 5 great human values: Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, and Ahimsa. The glory of Swami is that he propounded such high, profound, philosophical, Vedantic truth and message in such a simple, easy to understand, easy to follow teaching. Many people ask me in the course of my professional and other life, what is the great miracle about Baba? And I tell them I have no doubt in my mind. The greatest miracle of Baba is to touch human hearts all over the world, universally, whether the person is just a small human being with no vocation, no avocation, in poverty, or whether he is the president of a country, it doesn't matter to Swami. What Swami sees in you is your divine spirit or divine being that is inside you. Swami used to call everybody Divyatma Swarupalara, Prema Swarupalara. What does that mean? That means you are the very embodiment of the divine, and that is exactly what the Advaita philosophy teaches us. So if you look at it like that, I mean, today Who has time to read the Upanishads, the Vedas, to understand them, the Shankara Bhashya, and other commentaries that are there? It is Swami who has made it so simple and so easy for us. Say, I am everywhere. That's what Swami says. There's nowhere that I'm not there. I'm in you, around you, below you, above you, beneath you, inside you, around you. What more do you want? I'm everywhere around you. So how do you experience that everywhere? Experiencing of everywhere is only possible when you expand. Expand your love, and that is the one which enables you to see divinity everywhere. After all, when you go to a temple or a church, you see an image there, you see an idol there. And if you look at it as a pure idol, it doesn't evoke any feelings inside you. But if you look at it and say, well, there is divinity, suddenly a hush comes around you. Suddenly you start thinking, well, there is some divinity here. You become silent. You get contemplative. You start thinking. And then you start contemplating as to what good things God has given us. How does that happen? That happens because of our connect. So this is exactly what Swami kept on telling us. Now, Swami was very practical in his approach. Why I say that is, there are many teachers who have come in this world who taught us, the theory of it. But the practical side of it has not been taught us. Swami was a theorist and a practical person. He always taught us what to do, what not to do. Now, how did he teach us? He said, well, if you want to see God in everyone, you must love everyone. That means if you see somebody who's in trouble, who's in distress, you must go and relieve that distress. So somebody has got a medical problem, you need to go to some medical treatment. Okay, for that, let's set up a hospital. And Swami set up, these magnificent institutions of medical relief, which are the top class, the best in the world. 2 major hospitals in Puttaparthi and Bangalore, and 2 mobile general hospitals and one mobile hospital. And the Sai organization has done some phenomenal work all over the world. Need not elaborate on that. What was the object of all this? The object, as I see it, is for Swami to give us an opportunity to be of some service there. You see, unless you give, you cannot receive. You have got to give something of yourself to society, to the world around you, to your family, and to people who are really not directly connected with you. So I think when I answer the question of miracle, the first answer I give them is the miracle of Swami was that he was able to touch people's heart everywhere. And as most of you know, many of us have not had the great good fortune of being in the immediate vicinity of Swami. I don't know for what reason I was blessed for this, but Swami knows best that he gave us the close proximity of practically being like our father in this world. Everything that we did in our family, he helped us, he guided us. Whenever we are in distress, he held our hands. Whenever we are celebrating, he was celebrating with us. He was celebrating with such joy. Now, this kind of a proximity is not possible. But you ask any devotee anywhere in the world who has not had the proximity, he or she will tell you that I always feel Swami is part of me, is part of my family, he's my father, he's my mother. Anything that you have, you want to confide in, you go to Swami, see his picture or his image and say, Swami, I'm going to talk to you, you're going to answer me. This is the attitude. How does this happen? This is the greatest miracle of Swami. The second miracle of Swami is setting up of these institutions. Puttaparthi in the 50s was a small, tiny village. Nobody ever imagined that it would be what it is today. And Swami set it up for what reason? Now we set up schools, educational institutions, and mega projects like water supply and other things. He did all this only to help the poor and the needy and those who are in distress. Swami always said, I remember, in Kodaikanal, on one visit when we were there with Bhajan, on one day there was Narayan Seva. And Swami was, seated in there's a balcony there. And all of us who went along with Swami, including the students, the elders, and all of us, we all formed a human chain. And the prasadam, which was being distributed, was handed over by us right in front of Swami. It would start the distribution, and there would be a long line going up to the yard where a lot of Narayanas were seated, and we would go and give it. So Swami watched this for a long time. And after some time, he got up from his chair. He came down, walked along the side of this long line, and went to the last person who was in the line, who was the one who was serving the food to the poor people who were seated there. Swami took that from him and started serving. Now, we also have seen beautiful pictures of Swami in Vrindavan for Narayana Seva, actually holding the bucket which contains the food, using the ladle, taking out the food and serving it to him. And he went on doing this. So Swami did by example. So today also, on the Mahanarayan Seva which is performed, all of us in Puttaparthi, of course, last 2 years have been very difficult times because of COVID. We have not been able to have these events. But we all went to the big pandal in the stadium. All the trustees went and served the food as Swami would have loved us to do. It is not for us to show to somebody that we're doing it. It is our sense of gratitude to Swami. So the second miracle of Swami was you set up an institution, then you stabilize it, give it financial stability so that we have not much to bother about. We are not institutions that are going to run perpetually, but we have to put our effort into it. So both in education, in medical relief, and in public service projects, I think Swami's trusts are number one so far as India is concerned. Now, Darshan, Swami's Darshan is something, which we are all fond of. There cannot be anything greater than Darshan. I remember, in the past, one of my very dear friends who was a great devotee, he used to go to Puttaparthi many times. They used to call him for some work. He was a civil engineer. And many times, though he was invited to come there for something, Swami never met them or give them darshan or spoke to them. So every time he went and came back, I would telephone him, said, what happened? Was the work done? No, I had great darshan, I came back. He used to ask me, what happened? Did you actually not able to get audience with Swami? No, Swami told us to come back again soon. So that means he looked at it, that Swami called him for darshan. He had darshan and he went back. He didn't think that Swami called to come and talk to me and to give him some instructions. Then he would have, his ego would be different. He said, no, I got darshan. Thank you for sending me, because I'm going to go again after 2 days and I'm going to get one more darshan of him. And whether Swami called him or no is beside the point. That's the element of devotion, that we all have to build. See, getting darshan of great human personalities is very, very difficult. Durlabham triyamevaitat daivanugraha hetukam manushyatvam mumukshatvam mahapurusha samshraya. This is the first verse of Viveka Chudamani, composed by Arathi. He said 3 things are very difficult to get, which you can only get by God's grace. And the first one is being born as a human being. The second one is your desire inside you to evolve spiritually and to go towards God. That's mumukshatra. That is the desire to go forward spiritually. The last one is Mahapurusha Samshraya. Being in the company and then the benign care of Mahapurushas, great human beings, great personalities, divine beings. This is something which is absolutely impossible without God's grace. So the fact that all of us are sitting here in this beautiful morning, talking about Swami, reminiscing about Swami's beautiful form as he would emerge from Trai Vrindavan or from in Prashanti Nilayam and come into Quilwant Hall. No, these are images that are floating around in our head. Now what happens? You go now and you don't see Swami's image, but you see Swami's solium, samadhi there. And let me tell you, I've been going, right from around 98, 99 onwards, practically every week to Puttaparthi, except when I'm not in India. And in the last 3 years, of course, it has been very difficult to do that. I've been not very frequently going there, but been in touch. But the thing is, every time I go to Kulwant Hall, every time I sit in front of the Samadhi, I feel the same presence of Swami. That's the glory of Swami, isn't it? How is it possible that, after so many years, 10 years, a decade has gone by, you get exactly the same feeling sitting in front of you, exactly the same thing is happening, the Vedam is chanting is taking place exactly on time, the Bhajans are sung so beautifully. There are no words to express our gratitude for the kind of bhajans that are rendered in Prashanti Nilayam by the boys who are there. That is Swami's presence. Now, when Swami's presence is there and we are feeling it, now you go for the major events in Prashanti Nilayam. It's exactly the same. The same adoration takes place. See, adoration of Bhagavan is something which we are all looking forward to. We have to celebrate a function. I still remember Swami many years used to celebrate Ram Navami in Vrindavan, because after school, colleges close on 31st March, you would come to Vrindavan, and Ram Navami is usually in the first week or second week of April. With what gusto it used to be celebrated. And we were all part of that, the blessed group who was going to be there with Swami on that Ram Navami day. Now, like this, any function, any celebration that you think of, everybody comes. In fact, Swami used to always mention, to say that there are so many people who have come here. Have I sent any invitation to anybody? Have you called any dignitary to come here? For that purpose, they are coming. No such invitation. All invitations are going from the heart, and all devotees who come here are coming because of love for Swami. And there is no need for anybody to invite you. In fact, I remember one incident when one day when we were in Prashanti Nilayam, suddenly Swami asked me to join him for lunch. In those days, Swami was still in the Purna Chandra. And I went there. Swami sat at the table. I also sat at the table. And Swami is waiting. And he's looking at me. And he asked me, "Where is your wife?" And I had a blank look on my face. And she suddenly smiled. And he said, "Oh, they didn't invite her." "Okay, you do one thing. Hey, Satyajit, go call her and come." He said. So Satyajit was there. And so food is on the table. I'm sitting next to Swami. Swami just didn't touch anything. He said, "Get her in." So Satyajit ran to Shanti Bhavan to inform her. And she didn't have a clue. So she was not, formally dressed in a sari as she would normally be. So she was in her home clothes, a salwar kameez. And Satyajit told her, "Madam, Swami is at the dining table and he's waiting for you to eat. Please come." So she was in a fix. So she said, "Okay, I'm going." She just ran as it is, sat in the car and came to the dining room. And she was, looked very visibly embarrassed, not being dressed properly. The minute Swami saw her, he gave her a nice, naively smile and said, "This is your house. Idu mee illu kada. You have to be, this is your house. So you have to be here like how you are in your house. So you don't need anything more. Please come, sit down." And then, of course, he commenced the meal. The thing is, Swami always said this. Swami said, "This is your house. You have to come to your house. For what reason you have to come is left to you. But you don't need an invitation to come to your house, isn't it? Your mother doesn't invite you every day to come sit at the dining table and have lunch in our house. It's your house. So that's how it has to be." So my only message, if I can call it a message, is that Swami's presence is there in Prashanti Nilayam. Those of us who are blessed to be there are going to be there. Those of you who are living far away in distant lands, please keep connection. It is important for us to connect. Today, thanks to Radio Sai and all the advances that we have made, all the events that are taking place, everything is being seen by people live, and you're actually feeling your presence there. In fact, many times, if I've attended a function in Prashanti Nilayam and I've had to leave a little early because of some commitment in Bangalore, first thing we do is we connect up our phone to our car audio and we play the bhajans which are going on there. Till Arathi is going on the way back, driving home, we are in the same mental mood, in the presence of Swami, except that physically we are not there, mentally we are connected. So I think, the most important part of Swami's message is he's given us everything. He's given us good message. And one last thing I would like to say, Swami took a great deal of effort and pain in conveying his thoughts and blessings in many ways. One of the important things that Swami did was write on the Vahinis. These Vahinis were actually written in longhand in Telugu language by Swami. Some of the manuscripts are still available in the archives. He wrote Sanatan Sarthi for several years verbatim in hand, and later it was printed. He wrote Ram Katha Rasvahini, beautiful story of Ramayana, in his own hand, in his own inimitable language and style, all of which are translated to English and available. Professor Kasturi has done a wonderful job of these translations. These books are available. Now, during COVID times, I was somehow blessed and enthused to start some introspection, and we started reading. We read Ram Katha Rasvahini, we read the Upanishad Vahini, and we read a number of compositions of Swami. And, it gives you new insights. And all of this is very, very Catholic in its outlook. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, or something. Every single word is a message for us as to how we have to live, how we have to conduct ourselves, what should be our attitude to life, whom we should be with, who should be our friends, who should not be our friends. And every single thing, every single episode of Ramayana is so beautifully elaborated in Ram Katha Rasvahini. So my sincere request to all of you is that in the course of your busy lives, please do read some of Swami's writings. There's a lot of writings about Swami, about the miracles of Swami. Great people have written about him. But I would suggest you please start reading, if you've not already done so. Pick up the Vahini, they're small, tiny books, and please read the Vahini. Have a small study group within your family. This is what I was telling you. Last 2 years, our family group is only about 8 or 9 of us and a few friends and 1 or 2 similar thinking people. We studied the whole of Raghuvamsha of Kalidas. We read the whole of Shanti Prabha of Bhavat, which is a fantastic exchange of thoughts of philosophy. And we also read Taittiriya Upanishad. We read all of Swami's Vahinis. We now started reading Ramayana and the original Valmiki. And what I'm saying is, and we have done a lot of stotras. Shankara Bhagavadas composed so many stotras. Bhajagovindam, Swami used to always, cite one verse from Bhajagovindam. Of course, Bhajagovindam itself, Swami has sung. There's one verse, Satsangatve, Nissangatvam, Nissangatve, Nirmohatvam, Nirmohatve, Nischalatatvam, Nischalatatve, Jivan Mukti. These are 4 steps. You start with Satsanga, and from there, you go step by step. With Satsanga, you go to Nissanga. Nissanga, Nirmoha, but Moha is gone. From Nirmoha, you go to Jivan. So this is 4 steps which Swami is talking. Like, what I'm saying is that we need to make good use of our time. Time is precious, The worldly attractions, Swami said, ceiling on desires. What is the ceiling on desires? It's exactly what the Upanishad propounds. It said that there is no limit. You can never get happiness from satisfying a desire. You can only get happiness if you remove the desire. Now, if you feel like eating an ice cream, if you eat 1 ice cream, you may get some happiness. If you eat 5 more, it's going to cause you distress. But the minute you take away the desire to have an ice cream, that is when you get a sense of peace. There's nothing that you desire. Of course, it's a very high ideal that we need to think of to practice. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. In our ancient culture, like the Gaya visit I was telling you, whenever we went on a pilgrimage to Gaya, Kashi, the Purohit there would ask us, what is it that you like most? I said, I like gulab jamun. So I said, please give it. We gave a gulab jamun. Then he said, give me 1 vegetable which you love. So I gave 1 vegetable and 1 fruit. And he said, yes, you need to sacrifice that. God has given you so much. So many other things are there. This one thing can you not sacrifice? So it's a question of sacrificing. What can you sacrifice for Swami? Actually, if you ask me, Swami doesn't need us at all. We need him. Swami doesn't need us to go and, be Sevadal or to be trustees. In fact, I remember that, very young, still, not yet, just about after 40 years, Swami one day suddenly said you have to be a trustee in the medical trust when I was in Vrindavan. I literally caught hold of his feet and said, Swami, I got family responsibilities. My father, unfortunately, we lost him suddenly. He's a leading lawyer. I have 3 young children who have to bring up. I'm not a medical guy. I won't be able to do any justice to medical relief. Then he said, he held my hand and he said, see, Bangaru, you don't have to do anything. I am going to do everything. You just be there. And I didn't know how to, whether to believe it or not. But then when Swami said it, actually there's no doubt in your mind. I said, Swami, whatever you say, I'll do. And believe it or not, after that, for nearly 8 to 10 years, Swami didn't give me any work. Occasionally, there would be some question asked about something happening here, some advice, something to do with law or some other thing. Those are infrequent exchanges, but no, nothing. So what I'm saying is, without us, Swami's trust is running. Swami ran it, in his own name, individually, personally. He ran the trust from the time it was set up in the 70s till his Mahasamadhi. No one else ran it. And after that, it is running. That means Swami doesn't need us. We need Swami. So once we realize that we are only instruments, and for us to become selected as instruments of some kind of seva that we can do and guide other people and put them on the track which Swami has asked us to be on, I think that is a great blessing from Swami. And that blessing is something which we should cherish. And, this is like a driving license. You got to renew your driving license. Otherwise, it expires. And once it expires, if you're caught driving, then you're going to get fined. So let's not lose our driving license. We need to keep renewing it. And the way to renew it is to keep in touch with Swami. I'll only conclude with one episode. People ask me after Mahasamadhi, what is there? How do you feel Swami? Where do you perceive Swami? This is a constant question which people ask me. And I tell them, this is a constant everyday experience that I find. One day I got a call saying that I need to be in Puttaparthi the following day for a very urgent meeting. All the trustees are meeting. Usually it doesn't happen like that. It's well planned. But they said, no, there's something you have to come. And the next day I had a very big case, which I could not, get out of. The Chief Justice had said, tomorrow you're going to finish this case. I'm not adjourning it. So I said, what to do? I don't know what to do. So finally in the night, I prayed to Bhagan and said, you're going to take charge of it. I don't care, I'm coming. So I left. Mr. Bhagwat was my co-trustee. We usually used to carpool and go instead of going in 2 cars, relatively having each other's company. After some time, I got a call. I told my junior, I said, you do one thing. You call the opposite side lawyer and inform him that I have some personal difficulty today. I'm going to seek adjournment in court. So he said, yes, sir, I'll do that. After some time, I got a call and I see the name of the lawyer who's appearing on the opposite side. I thought, surely my junior has spoken to him, and this gentleman is calling me to confirm whether I am really out of station. So I said, hello, how are you? Sir, I have a request for you. What happened? No, so someone unwell in my house today. So I'm not going to be attending court today. And I want your permission to request the judges to adjourn this case. I said, by all means, I have no problem if you seek adjournment. This is a personal reason. We never oppose things like this. And I disconnected the phone. Immediately, I called my junior. I said, Arey, did you call that guy? I said, whom I told you to call. He informed him. He said, no, sir, I tried him many times, but I couldn't get his number. I said, well, Swami has done the calling, don't worry. The gentleman called me now and he told me this is what happened. So I said, you please be in court. The case reaches. He's going to take time and you can say that we have no objection for this. This happened, I could say 5 to 6 months ago. This is happening every time. This happened when Swami was there also. I've referred to it in other talks. But what I'm saying is, it is the perception and it is everybody's experience that this is happening. So many ways Swami is manifesting himself in our lives. We need to tune ourselves. Swami always used to give this example. There are radio waves everywhere. You have a transistor. If you don't tune it to the correct wavelength, you're not going to hear it. So you've got to tune yourself. Let's take a pledge today and enjoy every day. Be in Swami's company every day. Think of Swami every day. Do something which, we always feel, if I do something, like, as young children, if I do something good, my father will like it. So I will do that. Same thing with Swami. If I do something which Swami will be pleased with, let us do it. If we do something or we try to do something which we know in the back of our mind, in our heart, that conscience which is inside is telling you, no, this is not right, you should not do it. Then you know that if you do it, it's not going to please Swami and it's not good for us, not only for anything. So don't do it. I think Help ever, hurt never. Love all, serve all. I mean, what can be simpler and easier mantras for us to practice and live? Thank you very much. This is really the glory of Bhagavan, and it is going to live forever and ever. Thank you, Jai Sai.
Sairam, Jai Sairam, thank you so much for this wonderful talk and reminiscing about Swami with us. We actually learned a lot from your talk, and also two or three things I took away. One thing is we always have to renew our license. It just reminded me that we have to always, seek Swami and his blessings and renew our license with him, and also need to tune ourselves to Swami's wavelength so we can do his work. I was looking for some questions, but I don't think we have any questions from the devotees. I think they were all listening to your talk. And no questions to ask. So without further ado, I'll call upon our sister Kumudini, who's our Vice President of Canada, to say a few words. Thank you, Sarah.
My humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Lord, Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Sai Ram, respected elders, brothers, sisters, youth, and children. On behalf of the Sri Satya Sai Global Council of Canada, I wish to thank Swami for his divine blessings on this holy day. Thank you, Sri Naganand, for taking time off your very busy schedule to be with us today. We are so fortunate that you happen to be visiting Canada during this most auspicious time. With Swami's grace, we have been blessed to hear you speak on the glory of Sai today on Swami's Aradhana Mahotsavam Day. We have been uplifted by your words on Swami's mission and the universality of his teachings, as well as his lasting legacy. Thank you once again. Dr. Akshay, thank you for your support and for participating in today's meeting. Brother Chandrasekhar, thank you for all of your effort in organizing this meeting for us. We have no words to express our gratitude to you. To the national team of Canada, thank you for all the hard work you do and for all the support that we share with each other. Last, but certainly not least, thank you all to all the devotees for your participation in today's program. We have all truly benefited and feel Swami's presence both within and around us. May Swami continue to bless and guide us all. Our Parthivasa is with us and will always continue to be with us. So let us, as Sri Naganand said, tune in and work with Swami. Thank you all. Jai Sai Ram.
Jai Sai.
Jai Sairam. I'm sorry, there's one question, Sri Naganand sir. I'll just ask that. A question from one of our leadership. Can you share any advice Swami has given you regarding leadership?
Regarding leadership?
Yes.
I think, yeah, the question is, can you share something about leadership which Swami has guided you? I think, you know, as I said, Swami always believed in leading by example. Now, if you invite somebody to your house, Swami invited several guests for the inauguration of a Trai and also for the inauguration of his new house in Prashanti Nilayam. And when that happened, the way the lunch was organized was something which had to be seen to be believed. It was impeccably done. And everything was in the Ajurman there. There was a big dining room that was there. People were seated. And the way food had to be served, this was exactly the way in which it was served, and Swami used to sit for a meal. There was not one drop that would be, dropped out of the serving vessel on the table or anywhere else. It should be exactly there. It had to be served in a particular way. What I'm saying is, Everything the Swami did, he did it with perfection. There was nothing out of place. So when we are around Swami, because by very nature of our association as members of the trust, and we would be sitting for meals with Bhagwan, we would be inside with him whenever he went inside, and whenever he exchanged some thoughts, he would talk to us, and many times he would be very silent, very quiet. That silence and solitude, it's Bhagwan itself was a teaching exercise. You had to learn to be quiet, you had to learn to tune in, as I said, and just allow the waves to continue in that manner. So the lesson that I learned on leadership from Swami is, firstly, this is one thing which I'll explain to you. It's wonderfully works. A leader is one who builds consensus and then implements the best course. Now, in Swami's trust, it is always the case. Supposing there was an issue on which my advice was sought, and I thought about it and gave some piece of advice to Bhagwan, and this was on one-to-one basis. Then Bhagwan would say, in some cases, you discuss this issue with Mr. Chakravarti or Mr. Srinivasan, some one name, 2-3 names, it's the university, Giri, some name like that you would say. We discuss this issue. So then the indication was that I have indicated to Bhagwan, no, I must discuss with them and see what the consensus is. So then I would go back to them and I will explain to them that this is what Swami had in mind, this is the thing that I have thought about, this is a suggestion which I think we could do. And I threw that idea to them. We did some brainstorming, and afterwards all of them would have come to some conclusion, and they would have gone and reported back to Bhagwan that Naganand spoke about this, this is how we discussed it, and finally we all think that this is what is to be done. The minute this is conveyed to him, next meeting Bhagwan would say, Naganand, you said this, oh, you go ahead and do it like that. So what I'm saying is, Swami could have decided everything himself, he didn't need, but then when he needed some input and his followers gave him an input, he wanted to make sure that in this decision-making process, someone else is not hurt or someone else has not got a different perspective or a point of view. So he wanted everything to be considered. When we had a brainstorming and we all considered it and then went back to Bhagwan, he implemented it. But at the same time, there are so many things which Bhagwan himself decided, on which he need not ask us anything, isn't it? Those were Swami's decisions. But institutional decisions, because when you have a hospital, where you have a university, you have so many laws, so many regulations, so many things. And always Swami gave me one message. Whenever you are in doubt about the legality of anything, don't do it. If 2 views are possible, don't do it. Only do that which is perfectly correct and on which there is no second view. You could say, maybe you could go right or right, then don't turn it, go straight. If you're sure that this road is going to lead you there, take it. If you're not sure, don't take it. That's a great lesson in leadership. I think these two, consensus building and clarity of thought making. This is something which Swami actually lived and taught us. Thank you. I must thank Brother Chandrasekhar and Mahesh for taking the trouble, driving all the way and being here with me and assisting and coordinating this. I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Brother Bharani with the next item. Thank you so much, sir.
मानस भजरे गुरु चरणम दुस्तर भम सागर तरणम मानस भजरे गुरु चरणम दुस्तर भव सागर तरणम भजरे गुरु चरणम दुस्तर भव सागर तरणम ओम नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमः अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिव साईनाथ सद्गुरु गुरु महाराज गुरु जय जय साईनाथ सद्गुरु जय जय भजरे गुरु चरणं दुस्तर भव सागर करणम्
ॐ जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वरा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपतान्धवा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे मातपिता गुरुदैवमु मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्रशयन ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी हो साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अंधुको मंगल आरती अंधुको मंगल गिरिधारी ॐ जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ॐ सत्य नारायण 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 ॐ नारायण नारायण ॐ सत्य नारायण नारायण ॐ सत्य नारायण नारायण ॐ नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा शांति 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 समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति शांति शांति